Welcome to the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. This is week 9 of the warm-up pregame show. I'm your host, Mason Taylor, and as always, I'm joined by my father, Mark Taylor.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope we've got some new people listening, and if you are, welcome to week 9, and this is where Mason gives us his previews and predictions, and we always start off with what's ahead in this podcast. We've got a live show coming up we want to make an announcement for. You do not want to miss that event, and then Fan Zone, Game of the Week, and Mason's matchups. Mason, we've got a special night that we're going to be doing a podcast recording and playoff team spirit night that's going to be hosted at Buffalo Wild Wings here in Carrollton, Georgia, Monday, November 3rd, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We'll be interviewing some of the coaches, players. We'll invite all the cheerleaders, and don't want to miss that. So you'll be starting to see some things on social media as we get closer to that event on November 3rd. And then this is one of your friends, Mason, probably your closest friend. This is Mason Bass. I wanted to give him some recognition for some of the photography he's been doing. He does really good work. He captured these at some of the Lions games at Central. And, man, just fantastic looking photos there. I like his eye. I like his creativity. I like the perspective. So Mason Bass, great work. Keep up the good work. And then Fitness Expert 24 found this. They actually featured how players and parents can understand that verbal offers for high school students does not equal scholarships. And so there's some things they kind of walk through, some suggestions. And let's just go through these real quick, Mason, and comment on these as you see fit to do so. But colleges offer 30-plus athletes for 2 spots. Most won't make it. You agree with that? I mean, that's just – why do they do that?
Just to give them options and, give them options.
Yeah, I mean, the teams don't know who's going to stick, who they'll end up going with. So if you just only offer to 2 of your stars, maybe a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, and then they back out, go somewhere else, I mean, they've got to have some people that they can go to. But I thought it was interesting. Control the controllables. That was the first thing. Verified speed, strength, and GPA matter more than height. If you're going to an SEC team, you may not be thinking about GPA as much. If you're going to Duke or if you're going to Michigan or somewhere else, you may be thinking differently. Georgia Tech, Stanford, that's it. Keep improving yearly. Early offers don't stick. The athletes who keep developing in 11th and 12th grade win. And then stay consistent. Training, nutrition, recovery. Those who stay locked in climb the board. Communicate professionally. This is a big one because you're going to be doing interviews and maybe doing media days and press conferences where you're going to need to be able to speak well for yourself and for your team that you're representing in the school you're representing. Highlight reels and social media should look like resumes, not chaos. A lot of times music and the way what's going on is just utter chaos. It really doesn't feature them in their highlights very well. Parents' role, support, don't overstep, structure beats excuses. So I thought that was pretty good tips. Hopefully if you're a parent or a coach or a player out there, certainly that is helpful. And then GPB Sports Game of the Week, Mason. These are some games that you finally agree on. Could be some good picks for GPB this week.
Yeah, and just to talk back on what we just talked about, especially for the scholarship thing, now it's even harder because you got guys who transfer as well. So it's interesting because, like, I think his name's Rick Pitino. He's the basketball coach at St. John's.
Ricky P.
I know that's basketball and it's not football, but
Right.
he talked about how they don't even recruit high schoolers anymore. They're just recruiting out of the transfer portal just because of how different of a game it is now. And, a lot of guys will go to a smaller school and transfer out of it to a bigger school or vice versa, go to JUCO. And so there's many roads that lead to Rome in that instance, but it definitely makes things harder for high schoolers. But then, yeah, these games of the week, Gainesville, Milton, both of these teams I think are top 3 in 5A. So that's going to be a really important one. And it's region play as well. So likely whoever wins that game will, as long as they beat Roswell, will probably win the region championship down there. And St. Pius X Marist, I mean, this is going to be probably not as good. Definitely not a game that I would want to watch on TV. Marist is a good team. St. Pius X can't say the same for them. I don't know what other game I would have wanted to watch other than that, but it's definitely not Gainesville Milton.
I remember those Carrollton games in playoffs where they would go 5 and 6. I think 2 years back to back, 5 overtimes, 6 overtimes. Crazy
Yeah, with
days.
Maris, yeah.
Miss those days. And then your game of the week, Bowden Red Devils hosting Mount Zion Eagles.
Yeah, this is really, I mean, if I were to say based on closeness or potential of closeness, I would pick Temple Harrelson County. But this game, since it is essentially their region championship and it's between two teams from this area, I can't not put them as the game of the week.
Right, I agree. All right, Mason, let's get in your matchups. So, who are you going to start with?
I'm gonna start with my game of the week, the Mount Zion Eagles taking on the Bowden Red Devils. And Mount Zion, they come into this 7-1. Bowden comes in 5-2, really 4-2 because he never got to finish that game with Booker T. Washington. But Mount Zion, one of the best records they've had in the past couple of years. Definitely better than last year when they went, I believe, 3-7. They have a chance to win the region and get the 1 seed a year after not even making the playoffs. And they're taking on a team, though, in Bowden who's won 3 straight state championships. They're eyeing a 4th. So it's definitely going to be a tall task. We'll start off with the keys to success for the road team, and that'll be the Mount Zion Eagles. Number 1 for them, they got to control the clock with the run game. Mount Zion's offense, they thrive on the ground. They need to dictate tempo, sustain long drives, and keep Bowden's explosive offense off the field. A heavy dose of Rashad Montgomery, their running back, a heavy dose of him between the tackles can wear down Bowden's defense and open up play action for quarterback Knox Israel. Secondly, they got to stay ahead of the chains. With a run-first identity and modest passing attack, Mount Zion cannot afford negative plays or penalties. Staying in second and short situations will allow them to keep their full playbook available and avoid pressure on Knox Israel. Thirdly, they got to have some defensive discipline and gap integrity. Bowden's quarterback Joshua Hopkins is a dual threat who averages 218 total yards per game. Mount Zion's defense, which has only allowed 8.9 points per game, they got to contain him by setting the edge and preventing broken plays. Sound tackling from guys like Jaden Aki and Damian Sanders is going to be crucial. And then lastly, they got to start strong. Mount Zion averages nearly 22.4 points in the first half, but they fade late. They need to build an early lead and then lean on their defense to protect it. Bowden's best quarter is in the third, so weathering that storm is key. And I think the X factor for Mount Zion is going to be their quarterback, Knox Israel. You know, he's not flashy statistically, but his ability to manage the offense and make key throws off of play action could be the difference in this game. I think if he can hit their wide receiver, Xavier Buckner, who I think is one of the best wide receivers in 1A Division 2. If he can hit him on a few timely deep shots, you know, it'll prevent Bowden from stacking the box, and it can open up the run game even more, which is good for Mount Zion because that's really where their identity lies. For Bowden, their key to success, number 1 for them is going to be let quarterback Joshua Hopkins lead the way. He's the engine of their offense. He's averaging 218.3 total yards per game. So his ability to make plays with his legs and arm will be essential against the Mount Zion defense that has only allowed 71 points in 8 games. Designed quarterback runs and rollouts can exploit Mount Zion's linebackers. Secondly, they got to win the battle in the trenches. Bowden's defense averages 60.3 tackles a game, so they need that physicality to slow Mount Zion's run game. You know, if Jonah Wilson, their big senior back there, and if he in the front 7 can get penetration early, you know, it'll disrupt the timing of Mount Zion's rushing attack and force long yardage situations. Thirdly, they got to exploit height mismatches. This really only goes for Caden Prothro, their big 6'6", 5-star. You know, he's a major mismatch against any secondary, but especially this Mount Zion secondary. So, you know, jump ball, slants, red zone fade, they could be high percentage options. We saw that a lot in the Hurd County game. There's throwing up a fade in the end zone, let them go get it, easy money. So a few explosive plays through the air will help Bowden stretch the field and loosen up Mount Zion's run defense. And then lastly, they got to have a third quarter surge. Bowden averages 17 points in the third quarter, by far their best quarter. So if they can survive Mount Zion's strong first half and make halftime adjustments, that third quarter push could swing the game in their favor. And obviously their X factor, I think, is going to be their 5-star wide receiver, Caden Prothro. You know, his size, athleticism, he makes him a game-changing weapon. I think if Bowden can isolate him one-on-one, especially in red zone, or third down situations, he could tilt the matchup. Yeah, a 100-yard performance or multiple big catches from him would likely spell victory. For Mount Zion, so, in summary, I think Mount Zion's path, they got to pound the rock, they got to control tempo, they got to minimize mistakes, and they got to keep Joshua Hopkins off the field. For Bowden, if they want to win this game, they got to let Joshua Hopkins and Caden Prothro create explosive plays. They got to win up front, and they got to surge in the second half. With that being said, I don't think this is going to be as bad as people might think, but I do have Bowden winning this one 38-17. And essentially, as long as they beat Tryon, that would clinch the 1 seed for them in the region championship.
Yeah. What does that mean for Mount Zion, though, going forward, losing this game?
It doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, obviously, it'll even if they lose, I'm sure it'll be a good loss. You're playing a very good team. You're playing a top number 1 team in your class. And as long as Mount Zion beats Manchester, because that's, they've beaten Tryon, they've beaten Greenville. So even if they lose to Bowden, if they beat Manchester, they get the 2 seed, which essentially gets them a first round home game. It might not be a home game for the second round, but they at least get to start off at home in the playoffs. So obviously you want to win the region championship and knock off one of the best teams in your class. But if not, as long as you beat Manchester, you're pretty much set for the playoffs. And you'll go in, 8-2, 8-2 record. That's not too shabby
Not
after
bad.
going 3-7 and missing the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. Good point there. And then we've got homecoming for Carrollton this week.
Yeah, they're at home against Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill comes into this 1-5. Their only win came against Osborne, who you could argue is the worst team in 6A. So not great looking for the Chapel Hill Panthers this season. Obviously, you can't say the same for Carrollton. They come in 7-0, coming off of a dominant region victory against Westlake. I believe this is Chapel Hill's first region game of the year. So what a way to start off region play. You got to go on the road, take on Carrollton. But
Mason, let's go ahead and call it right now. How many minutes into the game, what quarter do they put in the backups?
I would probably say I don't know, full backups or just like kind of putting some in there, and then
full second string.
Probably third quarter.
How many touchdowns does Cam Wood get before they do that? I'm saying 4.
I don't know, because even last year they only put up 42. So I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be one of those games where they're just going to go you're going to try real hard, and I don't know.
Cam Wood puts up 28 by himself.
4 touchdowns.
I'd say they go 42 and then put in the backups.
We'll see.
All right.
But for Chapel Hill, obviously we're going to have to give them some keys to success, because there are keys to success in this game for them. Their first one's going to be to sustain drives and protect the football. Their offense has struggled to move the ball. That's pretty much an understatement, to be honest with you. Against a powerhouse like Carrollton, avoiding turnovers and 3-and-outs is critical. Long clock-eating drives, even if they don't end in touchdowns, can keep Carrollton's high-powered offense off the field and help control tempo. We saw that against Columbia. Columbia obviously lost 41-7, but they had the ball a lot, so it kept Carrollton from putting up more points. I wouldn't be surprised if Chapel Hill has one of those games where they try to just go really slow and sustain drives to keep Carrollton's offense off the field, because obviously they're going to get blown out, but just try to, not make it as worse than it needs to be. Second for them is going to be to get running back Nehemiah Aki going early. Senior running back Nehemiah Aki, he has been the focal point of that Chapel Hill offense. I think if Chapel Hill can establish even a modest ground game, it will open up play action for quarterback Jordan Spencer and keep Carrollton's defense honest. Short gains on early downs can help them stay out of predictable passing situations. Thirdly, they got to have a bend but don't break defense. I don't know. Carrollton averages 44.8 points per game, so completely shutting them down is not realistic. Chapel Hill's defense, they got to focus on red zone stands, forcing field goals instead of touchdowns, and avoiding explosive plays. Limiting big gains from CJ Cypher and Peyton Zachary is key. And then lastly, they got to play for field position. With limited offensive production, flipping the field will matter. Solid special teams play, smart punting, and avoiding costly penalties can help Chapel Hill keep this game competitive for as long as possible. Obviously, Lithia Springs, you can ask them how their special teams game went. When you have 80-something yard kickoff return to start the game, and then you have a 50-something yard punt return. So that's 2 touchdowns on 2 kicks, that's not very good. So Chapel Hill, they gotta be able to stop guys like Peyton Zachary from just taking it to the house every time they kick it to him.
I would think also special teams defense, just blocking.
Yeah. But the X factor for Chapel Hill is going to be their quarterback, Jordan Spencer. His ability to extend plays and make something out of nothing could spark the Panthers. I think if he can contain for a few first downs or connect on a couple of surprise deep balls, it could inject confidence into the offense and create rare scoring opportunities. For Carrollton, the first key to success is start fast and set the tone. Carrollton averages 27.1 points in the first half, while Chapel Hill has been outscored heavily early. If the Trojans jump out quickly behind C.J. Cypher's arm, they can force Chapel Hill out of their comfort zone and control the rest of the game. Secondly, they got to balance the attack. The Trojans are dangerous because of their offensive balance, 132.6 rushing yards per game, 262.4 passing yards per game. So leaning on Cam Wood early to soften the defense, and then letting C.J. Cypher work off play action to hit Peyton Zachary downfield is going to be necessary. Thirdly, they got to dominate in the trenches. Chapel Hill's run game is subpar, so Carrollton's front seven should control the line of scrimmage. Winning up front will force Chapel Hill into third and long situations, allowing Carrollton to bring pressure and create turnovers. And then lastly, they got to stay sharp and focused. Against an overmatched opponent, the biggest challenge can be mental. So Carrollton should use this game to clean up on execution, avoid penalties, and build confidence in younger players, especially with some of those freshman guys like Dash Mighton at wide receiver and Nick Archer at running back, etc., anything like that. I think the X factor for Carrollton is going to be wide receiver Peyton Zachary. He's averaging 80.4 receiving yards per game, and he is the go-to weapon for C.J. Cypher. His ability to create separation and turn short passes into explosive plays could lead to multiple early touchdowns, setting the tone for a dominant performance. And another thing is, he's dangerous on special teams. Mm-hmm. So that adds another layer to his game that they're going to have to worry about. So that's why he's my X factor. But for Chapel Hill, for them to win this game, they got to slow the game down. They got to limit mistakes. They got to find creative ways to extend drives and rely on defense to keep it respectable. For Carrollton, they got to establish dominance early, stay balanced, win in the trenches, keep the offense humming behind C.J. Cypher and Peyton Zachary. With that being said, I have the Carrollton Trojans getting a big win in the sense of big score. 56-point win, 59-3 is my prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we go to Harrelson County.
Yep, the Harrelson County Rebels, they host the Temple Tigers, and this one's going to be interesting. Another region matchup where we see two teams from around here going against each other. Temple comes into this 4-3. They're on a 3-game losing streak, got blown out by Pepperell, shut out by Bremen, and then shut out by Heard County. Harrelson County comes into this 5-2. They just got a comeback victory against Model on the road, 31-17. So this is going to be interesting. 5-2 Harrelson County versus 4-3 Temple. We'll start off with Temple since they are the road team. Number one, they got to feed JoJo Jones early and often, and that's really always the number one key to success for them. Temple's offense runs through JoJo Jones, who is averaging an incredible 130 rushing yards per game. Establishing him early will set the tone physically, help control the clock, and keep Harrelson County's defense on the field. A heavy workload for Jones should be the game plan for the opening drive. Secondly, they got to control tempo and time of possession. Temple averages 403.4 total yards per game, most of it on the ground. Sustaining long drives not only wears down the defense, but also keeps Harrelson County's offense, which is opportunistic late, keeps them off the field. So they must avoid turnovers and penalties that stall drives. Thirdly, they got to stay disciplined defensively. Harrelson County, they've been efficient in the red zone, and they score heavily in the fourth quarter. Temple's defense, they got to remain sharp for 4 quarters, limit big plays, and make Harrelson County drive the field. Good tackling from guys like Evan Harrison, who's averaging 7 tackles a game for them. That is going to be crucial. And then lastly, they got to finish drives in the red zone. Temple moves the ball well, but they need to capitalize when they're inside the 20. So settling for field goals against a stingy defense that's only allowed 74 points in 7 games, that could spell trouble for them. The X factor, obviously, for Temple, if you couldn't tell already, is going to be their running back, JoJo Jones. He's the heartbeat of their offense. He's the kind of player who can control an entire game. I think if he eclipses 150 yards and finds the end zone multiple times, Temple's chances skyrocket. I think Harrelson County's obviously going to key on him, so how he responds will determine Temple's success. For Harrelson County, their first key to success is play strong in the trenches. Temple's rushing attack is elite, so Harrelson County's front seven, they got to win up the battle up front. Penetration and tackling will be key to containing JoJo Jones. They cannot allow Temple to consistently churn out 5 to 6 yards per carry. Secondly, they got to take advantage of late game opportunities. Harrelson County, they're a second half team. They're averaging 17.3 points in the third and fourth quarters combined. So if they stay close early, they can take over down the stretch. Stamina and adjustments will be vital against a run-heavy opponent. And again, in that model game, we saw them be a second half team. They came out of the half and they took the game. Ended up having a clutch pick six to seal the deal, but I believe they were down 17-7 at one point and ended up winning 31-17. So they proved last week they were a second half team. So obviously that's going to come into effect in this game. Thirdly, they got to establish Jax Brown as a workhorse. And I know Kent Boyd's kind of been the story for Harrelson County this whole season, but Jax Brown, the emerging sophomore, he's kind of starting to become the offensive tone setter. Consistent carries will help control possession, open up play action for Paxton Ray, their quarterback, and also keep Temple's offense off the field. So even short games with Jax Brown can wear down Temple's defense and also help set up late game success. Lastly, they got to capitalize on field position and mistakes. Harrelson County's defense, that's been their strength all season. So forcing turnovers and starting drives on the short field can help overcome a modest offensive output. So special teams, they could also swing momentum there too. So I think the X factor here is obviously going to be their sophomore running back, Jax Brown. His ability to move the chains and wear down Temple's front is critical. I think if he can generate consistent yardage and finish drives in the red zone, Harrelson County can dictate tempo and keep the game in their control, especially late. Temple, I think, they got to pound the ball with Jones. They got to dominate time of possession. They got to stay disciplined on defense late. For Harrelson County, they just got to win the line of scrimmage. They got to rely on their defense. They got to lean on Jax Brown, and they really got to finish strong in the fourth quarter. With that being said, and, Temple still yet to win a region game.
Yep.
And that's definitely going to affect their playoff chances, even with the power ranking format. But I have Harrelson County getting the win, 34-14, a 20-point victory at home. It is Harrelson County's homecoming, so that adds another layer to that game.
Yeah,
but I don't see Temple winning this one.
Wow. Yeah. How have they been able to stop JoJo Jones, though, in these two shutouts? I mean, I would think if you're putting up 130 yards in rushing per game, that's usually pretty much an indicator that you're going to win that game, but not if you're giving up a bunch of points in defense. Obviously, it's got to be that balance, but how are they able to stop him? I mean, it's just overpowering their offensive line, just not able to get their running game going.
Well, and they have a good offensive line. I mean, Ryan Self, Dom Nicolosi, Junior Presley, those guys are huge, and they have two of the best offensive linemen, I think, in all of 1A Division I in Ryan Self and Dom Nicolosi. But at the same time, when you face a Heard County team who you could argue is top 3 in their class, and they have a front seven who is just – they live for tackles for loss, tackles, and sacks. They just live for that stuff. And if you look at the numbers, Max Lassiter and Jackson White alone just combined for crazy statistics defensively. So I'm sure they were all in that backfield. Obviously they were. They won 35-0. But Temple's very one-dimensional, I think, because I believe they run wing T. Don't quote me on that. They might run wing T, but they are a very run-heavy team. And they don't really have a true quarterback because they go back and forth between Brody Dempsey and I always forget his name. Anyways, they switch up quarterbacks. So I mean, they don't really have a true quarterback. I mean, they don't really have a true passing game. So they're a very run heavy team. And when you shut down the run, well, what does that leave you?
One dimensional. Well, speaking of Heard County Braves, they're next.
Yeah, and they're taking on a Darlington team who is they run the triple option, and we saw how that went against Harrelson County. Harrelson County beat him 47-0. And I don't know. Darlington's 2-4. Again, Heard County probably going to win region. Obviously, with a win here, would keep their undefeated season alive, and would confirm every notion that we know about them. But Darlington, they do come into this 2-4. It will be at Heard County. So we'll start off with Darlington. They got to control the clock with the ground game. Darlington, obviously, their best chance to stay competitive is to slow the game down and lean on Matthias Selle and Jace Donaldson. Again, when they run the triple option, you have a lot of guys that they're going to use and to get that done, but it's not going to be really a passing heavy offense. It's going to be mainly running. So sustained drives that chew clock and keep Ethan Tisdale and Darius Coleman on the sideline obviously are essential. Secondly, they got to limit explosive plays. Heard County averages 13.5 first quarter points, and they also have multiple explosive playmakers. Darlington's defense, they got to force long drives rather than just giving up quick strikes. Strong tackling and disciplined coverage will be key against a balanced attack. Thirdly, they got to protect quarterback Nate Kunjewski, or gosh, I always butcher his name. Kunjewski. That's how I'm going to say it. Heard County's defense, they average 2.8 sacks per game, led by the head coach's son, Max Lassiter. So Kunjewski, he's got to get the ball out quickly. Quick reads, high percentage throws to Trey Moore and Donaldson. Those guys are going to be key to move the chains and avoid negative plays. And then lastly, they got to win the turnover battle. Upsets are built on takeaways. So if Darlington's defense can generate a couple of turnovers and flip field position, they can create short fields for an offense that struggles to move the ball consistently. The X factor for Darlington, I think, is going to be Jace Donaldson. They plays running back and wide receiver. He's very versatile, and it makes him their most dynamic weapon, I think. So he can hurt defenses as a runner, a receiver, a returner. And if he cannot find ways to create chunk plays and keep Heard County guessing, Darlington's offense, or if he can find ways to create chunk plays and keep Heard County's guessing, Darlington's offense can stay alive long enough to compete. For Heard County, obviously coming in undefeated, 6-0, big win over Bowden. Obviously just got a dominating win against Temple. Now they go back home. And the first key to success for them is going to be to start fast and apply pressure early. Heard County averages 26 points in the first half, so striking quickly behind Ethan Tisdale and Darius Coleman can force Darlington out of its comfort zone. A couple of early scores will allow Heard County to dictate tempo and lean on its defense. Secondly, they got to stay balanced offensively. Heard County's strength is its balance. They average 222 rushing yards a game. They average 138 passing yards a game. So mixing the run and pass will keep Darlington's defense off balance, and Coleman's rushing threat opens up play action shots to Brody Buck Cofield downfield. And I have great news. After 5 weeks of being out, Brody Buck Cofield finally is no longer in a boot, and he is cleared to play this game. Now,
Let's go, Brody.
I don't know how much of the game he'll be playing. I don't know if it's going to be in little increments or if they're going to fully throw him out there and let him do what he was doing before he got injured. But he's missed most of this season with an injury, and it's going to be great to finally see Brody Buck Cofield get back on the field because, him and Zayden Moreland, I think, are two of the best wide receivers in 1A Division I. So having both of them back now is going to be fantastic for that offense. So congratulations to Brody on being able to get back on the field. Thirdly, they got to win at the line of scrimmage. Heard County's defense, led by Max Lassiter, should dominate up front against a Darlington offense that has struggled to protect. If the Braves control the trenches, they can stifle Darlington's run game and pressure Kunjewski into mistakes. And then lastly, they got to finish strong. Heard County averages just 5.2 points in the fourth quarter, while Darlington tends to hang around late. So keeping the pedal down and closing drives efficiently will ensure no late game drama. And we obviously, last week, they didn't give up a single point to Temple, so they were very pedal to the metal last week on the road. The X factor, none other than quarterback Ethan Tisdale. His dual threat ability makes him the engine of Heard County's offense, and if he's clicking both through the air and on the ground, Darlington's defense will not have the personnel to contain him. A clean, efficient game from Tisdale should translate to another dominant win. So Darlington, they got to pound the ball with Selle and Donaldson. They got to slow the game down, avoid turnovers, and force Heard County into long drives. For Heard County, they just got to jump out early, stay balanced on offense, win in the trenches, and then let their stars like Ethan Tisdale and Darius Coleman let them take over. With that being said, I don't think this one's going to be close at all. I think that Harrelson County game earlier in the year against Darlington was a very good indicator of how bad this Darlington team is. I have Heard County winning 52-6.
Wow. It's a big spread, Mason.
Yep.
And then we close things out this week with Villa Rica Wildcats.
Yeah, Villa Rica, they're taking on an undefeated New Manchester team. New Manchester, they're currently number 1 in their region. Now, granted, they haven't played Rome yet, but they are 6-0. They're undefeated. Villa Rica, can't say the same. They are 3-4 after getting absolutely whipped by Rome. But New Manchester, will start off with them since they are they're the team that's going to be on the road. Firstly, they got to establish the ground game early. The Jaguars' offense is built around Andre Giannopoulos, who's averaging a dominant 169 rushing yards per game. So feeding him early sets the tone, opens up play action for DJ Alexander, which is their quarterback, and he's committed to FIU. I think he's a 3-star. And it also keeps Villa Rica's defense on its heels, so I expect a heavy workload behind a physical offensive line. Secondly, let DJ Alexander work the offense. Alexander averages 210 total yards per game. He shows balance and poise, mixing in short to intermediate passes to guys like Adrian Guilford, and rollouts can stretch Villa Rica's defense horizontally before attacking vertically. So his dual threat ability should keep drives alive on key downs. Thirdly, they got to stay aggressive in the first half. New Manchester, they've been a first quarter juggernaut. They average 18.8 points in the first quarter. So jumping out to an early lead will put pressure on Villa Rica's offense that averages just 0.6 points in the third quarter. So a fast start could all but seal control before halftime. And then lastly, they got to tackle cleanly and eliminate mistakes. Villa Rica, they may not be explosive, but they can capitalize on short fields. Morris Swims and the linebacking core of New Manchester, those guys got to wrap up on first contact while the defense avoids penalties that extend drives. The X factor, obviously, for New Manchester is going to be their running back, Andre Giannopoulos. He's the workhorse. He's the tone setter. When you average pretty much 170 rushing yards per game, I mean, that's just unbelievable, especially at the 5A level. So I think if he eclipses 150-plus yards again, it'll open everything else up offensively, and his ability to rip off chunk plays can demoralize a defense and allow New Manchester to just dictate tempo all game long, even on the road. For Villa Rica, who comes in 3-4, first key to success for them, play keep-away football. The best way to beat an explosive offense like New Manchester is to limit their possessions. So sustained clock-chewing drives behind their running back, Emmanuel Ajayi, can help shorten the game. Even if the run game is modest, staying ahead of the sticks will prevent Alexander and Giannopoulos from controlling tempo. Secondly, they got to create turnovers in short field. Villa Rica's offense has struggled to produce sustained drives, so defensive takeaways are critical. They got to force at least 2+ turnovers to generate scoring chances without needing long marches downfield. Thirdly, they got to lean on their quarterback, Matthew Eubanks, for balance. Eubanks is averaging 108.7 passing yards per game, and he'll need to find Maxwell Garfield for chunk plays. Early completions can loosen the box and create running lanes for Ajayi, and a couple of explosive plays through the air could swing momentum. Lastly, for them, they got to win the special teams and hit a yardage battle against a team in New Manchester that's averaging 433.8 total yards per game.
Wow.
Villa Rica cannot afford field position mistakes, so they must execute well on punts, coverages, and avoid giving New Manchester short fields. Any hidden yardage edge helps keep the game close. X factor for Villa Rica is going to be their quarterback, Matthew Eubanks. His arm gives Villa Rica their best chance to move the ball and create scoring opportunities. I think if he can connect on timely throws, extend drives, and avoid turnovers, Villa Rica can hang around longer than expected. His poise under pressure will be key against a fast defense. So, New Manchester, feed Giannopoulos, strike early, let DJ Alexander control the game pace through balance. For Villa Rica, you got to shorten the game, you got to win the turnover battle, find balance through Eubanks, and then capitalize on field position. And even though all those crazy stats for New Manchester, I still think this is a 10-point game. I don't see Villa Rica winning this game. I have New Manchester getting the win 31-21, but this is going to be one that I think is going to be interesting because Villa Rica, they still got to play, obviously them. They got to play East Paulding, which should be a close one. And Villa Rica, let's say they lose to New Manchester and East Paulding but win out. They beat Kennesaw Mountain. That's probably, a 4 seed for them. So how they do against New Manchester and East Paulding is going to be important. But then also New Manchester, with a win here, would essentially keep them in the region championship race as long as they'd still have to play Rome. But if Villa Rica were to beat New Manchester here, Rome would essentially, as long as Rome wins out, they would clinch that would be the region title clincher right there.
That's so crazy. They've lost 4 games, but if they win this one, they could be in the region title contention. That's just crazy to me. But that it was a tough loss against Rome, so I hope they come back and have a better showing this week. Of course, all the best to all the teams. And we are going to finish up tonight. Of course, reminding you that we are on social media, so follow and share us, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and then be able to listen in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and there'll be many others that you can listen to, but those are the main ones that that's what you follow. And then as always, we want to remind you that we're on social media on Facebook and Instagram, X, and YouTube. Follow us and share us there. And then if you want to listen on the Apple Podcast, Spotify for audio, and then watch us on our YouTube channel, comment so that others can find us as well. That's been helping for others to locate us and then be able to have us go up in the rankings. So that's always helpful. Our views are going up. We appreciate that. And more cities are coming on, actually, Mason, that people are finding us, maybe because people are sharing it, but we appreciate that. Well, with that said, enjoy all the games Friday night if you're attending. I think we should be having good weather, but there'll be 2 teams with homecomings. Good luck to all those candidates as well for homecoming court. And we'll see you on Monday's recap show. Goodbye, everybody.